Hello, dear friends. First, may I ask if the translation systems are functioning well? Everything looks good. So today is the ninth Sunday that we've been together. And during the 3 months rain retreat, we've been exploring the theme of engaged Buddhism and applied Buddhism. And we know that our teacher Thai, the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, practiced engaged Buddhism very deeply in a very committed way, along with Sister Chung Kung, throughout his whole life. And he was following the tradition that was already established in the Vietnamese Buddhism, where the patriarchal teachers, Venerable Master Thang Hoi, and then the Ki Trong Thái Tông, the kings, and Dhyana Master Nhit Din as well. They always brought the teachings to the people in their country. They did not stay in the monasteries to practice only for themselves. They had the bodhicitta, the mind of love, and they really wanted to help remove the suffering in the world and create peace. So this was engaged Buddhism. I understand that historically it came first, so to speak. But at the same time, it was also applied Buddhism. And there's no difference really, they inter-are. Applied Buddhism is applying the mindfulness practices and the Buddhist teachings to daily life and to situations that we may encounter, either at home, in our relationships, at work, in society, and in the world, applying what we enjoy practicing. Thai established the European Institute of Applied Buddhism in Waldboro, Germany. And he wanted to create a place where people could come and learn the practices in the form of taking a course. So many courses were created and planned, and the European Institute of Applied Buddhism has a catalog of courses, much like a university. And Thai wanted the monastics to live there and to teach. But the European Institute of Applied Buddhism is not a monastery as we know it here in Plum Village and elsewhere. He wanted an institute. And so the courses have been offered, and it's for people to come who live in the world, and they offer summer retreats, holiday retreat, Easter retreat, and also practices for children and teenagers. So it's similar to Plum Village, but the emphasis is on applying the Buddhism to daily life, the practices, which we've been doing here. So it's something we're familiar with as well. And I imagine many of you are already applying the teachings in your daily life. One of the most important teachings that I have appreciated the most is Thai's teaching and the Buddhist teaching also on living in the present moment, in the here and the now. And no matter where we go, the present moment is with us. It's in our mind. We cannot find the present moment anywhere in space. For example, the present moment doesn't live in a tree. We can't find the present moment under the ocean. Can't find the present moment in the stars. But we find the present moment in ourself. So when we bring our mind back to the body, and that is when we become aware of our body with our mindfulness energy, then we can experience the present moment. Excuse me, well, I find the best way I can experience the present moment is with mindful breathing. I become aware of my body and my lungs. And I know that the body is truly a miracle. The body has given us 3 ways to invite the air into the body. 3 ways. Do you know what those 3 ways are? We have a nose, which has 2 nostrils and a mouth. We can't go wrong. Even with a head cold and stuffy nose, we can still breathe through our mouth. And the air nourishes all the cells in our body, and the body can function with the oxygen. So there's an interbeing nature of all the organs and cells in our body, thanks to the oxygen outside that comes into our body. We know that the teachings the Buddha gave in the Anapanasati Sutra, the sutra on the full awareness of breathing, starts with awareness of our breath, aware of the breath coming into our body, and then aware of the breath leaving the body. And with these exercises of mindful breathing, we develop concentration. We can focus more easily on our breath. And the 3rd and 4th breathing exercise is to become aware of our body, to notice if we have any tension in our body, and then with the breathing, to release and relax. Let go of the tension. The Buddha started his teachings very often with awareness of the body and how important it is for us in our daily lives to be aware of our body and take care of our body. Because sometimes the real suffering in the world is simply that we don't have the time or enough conditions to be aware of our body and take care of our body through mindful breathing. But not only mindful breathing, Buddha gave us some more ways. And in this Satipatthana Sutra, the sutra on the 4 foundations of mindfulness, Buddha gave us more to be aware of. That is, the body positions. So whether standing up, walking, sitting, or lying down, we're aware of our body in these positions. And now we add touching the earth, prostrations, and total relaxation, which is lying down meditation. So we start our daily life, each morning, with awareness of our breath and our body. I'd like to share with you how I like to begin each morning. I begin the morning with some mindful breathing. And then I like to send energy of love and compassion to people who need it, to myself, and to the world. So I do this the first thing. And then I like to water seeds of gratitude and happiness. So I look for beauty. By this time I'm outside, so I look to nature and I try to see what is beautiful. Even though it's dark, I look up at the stars. I look at the moon. If the moon is full, well, even more wonderful. I appreciate the golden light of the moon. I smell the fresh air early in the morning. And as the sun begins to rise, I look at the rising sun, the beautiful colors in the sky. And I've learned that if you look at the rising sun, the first rays of sunlight are actually good for the brain. They help one sleep much easier. And I found that true. So I don't look too long. I don't know how long I'm supposed to look at the rising sun rays, but I look, and then I've noticed, I sleep more quickly. I feel gratitude that I have another day. And there's some beautiful gathas that Thich has written to help us begin each day with awareness and gratitude and a sense of beauty. Now, why do I like to look for beauty the first thing in the morning? Why not wait until later on? And I've discovered that sometimes yesterday's events, which have passed already, they have been received by my consciousness. We might say they've been downloaded to store consciousness, all my experiences, what I heard, what I've seen, what I've said, the relationships, the whole matrix of yesterday's experiences have gone down to the store consciousness, the deepest layer of my consciousness in the form of seeds, bijas. And during the night, sometimes all of these experiences kind of mix together. Sometimes I will have a dream, and sometimes no dream. And sometimes when I wake up, I don't feel so happy. And I don't know why. And, whatever the reason, I don't spend too much time at that moment of the day. But I know that if I go to the beauty of nature, if I try to water and bring up the seeds of happiness and gratitude in the beginning of the day, then that gives me a lot more energy to continue the day. Happiness energy to continue the day. So that is why I look to the beauty of nature and to what is wonderful as early as possible in the morning. If someone lives in a city, it may not look the way it looks in Plum Village, but there's still the possibility to find beauty. If you live in an apartment, I've learned that many apartments now have a terrace. And many people have plants, even they're growing trees on the rooftop of tall apartment buildings. So there's greenery. Nature is everywhere in her beauty. The birds are still singing, even in cities. The sun will still rise. The beautiful clouds are still there. So look for beauty. The Gatha Thai has written is, first one is, waking up this morning, I smile. 24 brand new hours are before me. I vow to live them mindfully and look at all beings with eyes of compassion. So this is a nice way to begin the day, with your aspiration to have compassion and look at people with understanding. And that includes ourselves. Another gatha is called opening the window. That's a beautiful one. Opening the window, I see how wondrous is life. I look out on life as it is. I see everything as it is, and that's the Dharmakaya, called the body of the Dharma manifesting before my eyes. How wondrous is life. My mind is clear and calm like a river. So when I'm attentive to each moment, I see how wondrous is life, that my mind can be clear and calm like a river flowing. So another gatha to repeat to yourself. And I find when I repeat the words of the gatha, my mind becomes like the words of the gatha. So let us take a moment now to let our mind be calm and clear. The breathing will help clear away some thoughts. We hear the beautiful sound of the bell. I listen to this wonderful sound that brings me back to my true home. My home is my body. And it is said that the body is where we have to live in. It's our home. We live in our body for the rest of our life. So why not relax and enjoy and create peace and calmness in our body? Brings me back to my true home. We have just heard the bell in our meditation hall. There is another bell, and this is our activity bell. And we've all heard it since we've been here, and the bell actually invites us to go somewhere. Well, first we stop. We don't go anywhere. We stop and we breathe. And we become aware of our body. If there's tension, we relax. And then the bell invites us to go somewhere. So where we go will be either to stand up and sing some songs before walking meditation, or stand up and come to a gathering, or stand up and do some standing up work. And maybe if you're on the cooking team, you'll be washing the vegetables, peeling the vegetables, cutting vegetables. And we know that the time for cooking is, I would say, 3 or 4 hours, because I see our sisters already preparing the lunch when I come for breakfast. So that's at least 4 hours of standing up. Or perhaps you're standing up if you're a cook somewhere, or washing the windows, washing the cars, trimming the trees. They're standing up for us. Or maybe the bell is inviting us to go somewhere and sit down. We come to the meditation hall and we sit down. Or else we come to a class and we sit down. We come to a meeting and we sit down. Perhaps some of you are working at a computer and you come to work and you sit down. And then we sit for quite some time. So either we're standing or sitting. And I have just recently decided to look at that for myself, my practice. And if I'm aware I've been sitting for 2 hours in a meeting, then when I leave the meeting, I walk. I do some walking. If I've been walking for some time, then I know I need to sit down. So the sitting and standing and then the walking at either end of the sitting or whatever, or the sitting down and the walking, I find is important for letting the body relax. And in fact, we know that Thich would take a break from his work. Perhaps he was writing something or preparing a presentation. He would take a break periodically, and he would do walking meditation, very briefly. And also our senior sister, Sister Chanduk, Sister True Virtue, Sister Annabelle, we've also observed that she does the same thing. She takes pauses and she just does some walking between activities. So we know that the walking is very wonderful, and it's another basic practice in applied Buddhism. We're applying our mindfulness energy to every activity. I'd like to just stand up now because I've been sitting. And I'll take a break. I'm going to stand up and just do some walking. And you may use this opportunity while I'm standing up to have a sip of water or something that you might enjoy or enjoy your breathing while I prepare to stand up, and then we'll see what I'll do. Okay? So, dear friends, walking is healing. And Thai used to demonstrate walking a lot during his Dharma talks in the beginning. So I'd like to just, of course, we all know how to walk mindfully. It's nothing new. But I'd like to really give myself a break, to be honest. I'm going to enjoy walking in terms, each step is nourishing. Each step is healing. Each step is nourishing my mindfulness. Each step is healing in terms of increasing the circulation in my body. The body can heal when there's good circulation of the energy and the vital fluids, the blood. Each step is peaceful. I walk on the earth to offer Mother Earth my peace. And I walk gently. Each step is freedom. So while walking, I don't think of anything. I'm free from my thoughts. I'm just enjoying every step. This is freedom. If I walk and I think about everything that's troubling me, then there's no freedom. The freedom is the letting go while walking. Just the footsteps, and that's wonderful. So walking meditation is the way to experience the present moment, happiness, freedom, and it's a way to nourish the body. But sometimes the body doesn't feel well, doesn't feel at ease. Have you ever been sick? Has anyone ever been sick? If you have, you raise your hand. Okay, then I'm not the only one. Because I have a little story to tell you. Maybe a week ago, I began to sneeze. You know what a sneeze is. And I wasn't the only one sneezing. Other people were sneezing. And I thought, okay, I'm just sneezing now and then. Wasn't all the time. And then I began to feel, oh yeah, well I have aches and pains in the morning. Oh, my back, yeah. But that's not new. I have aches and pains, yeah, in the morning. But it gets better. So my aches and pains got better. I sneezed a little bit, but not too bad. And then my nose began to run, runny nose. Well, that happens in the cold weather. I told myself it's just the cold weather. So I had my tissue and wipe my nose, blow my nose. Okay. I'm still not sick, right? Okay, I'm not sick. And then I had a headache. Oh, I thought, well, I didn't drink enough water yesterday. That's why I have a headache. I'm dehydrated. So I drank some water, and then the headache went away. So I said to myself, no, I'm not sick. I didn't want to be sick because of my appointment with all of you today. my important meeting to be here today. So I said, no, I'm not sick. But then one morning I woke up. I have a sore throat. I'm sick. Because to me, being sick is having a sore throat. I had a sore throat as a child many times, so I was sick then. So that was the sign. Okay, I'm sick, I have a sore throat. But I don't have a fever, so I'm not so sick. So this was my process of being aware of my body and taking care of my body. So basically it was resting and staying warm, and then trying to figure out what treatment modality should I use, vitamin C and etc., or traditional Chinese medicine, or essential oils. I mean, there's quite a lot, many ways to heal. But basically the body just needed to rest and heal. But sometimes we don't feel at ease. And that's the truth. We don't feel at ease in our body and mind. And this may be the beginning of suffering, of ill-being. So I want to move on now to the Four Noble Truths, in which the Buddha described suffering, or as Thai reworded the Four Noble Truths in terms of ill-being, rather saying that the word ill-being is perhaps more appropriate for us in our times. So let me go to the board now, and we'll have a look at the Four Noble Truths, which I know many of you know already, but maybe it'll be a little bit of a review for others, or for the first time for a few. Okay, so we know the Four Noble Truths. The first one is the presence of suffering. And in the time of the Buddha describes suffering as birth, old age, disease, illness, death, to be with those whom we don't love or like, and to not be with those whom we do love and like, to be separated from people we love, and additional contributions to suffering. So the important thing is Buddha recognized the presence of suffering, and this, I think, is important for us to recognize. When we don't feel so good about something, or our health of our body, and instead of the word suffering, Thai introduced the word ill-being, because sometimes we don't want to admit that we're suffering. Much easier to say, I have ill-being. So, okay. And then the Buddha described there are causes for suffering. There are reasons for suffering. There are the roots of suffering. And the same, there are causes and roots for ill-being. And we may, I like to add another word, there are conditions contributing to the cause of ill-being, certain conditions. So the causes will have conditions, okay? And for it to be a cause, my understanding is that the conditions have to be sufficient, enough for it to be a cause that will have an effect, which is suffering. I'd like to demonstrate something about conditions as I understand conditions. Now I'd like to make a little fire. I have some matches here, and in order to do that, we need several conditions to be present to actually make a flame. And maybe you can think of some of the conditions that would be necessary to actually let the flame manifest so we could see it. So this is what I came up with. I need a piece of wood. The wood needs to be dry. And I need a tip at the end of the match, another condition, contributing condition. The box surface on which I'm going to strike the match needs to be dry as well. If it's wet, it won't make the flame. There'll be no ignition. Okay, another condition. Oxygen. Yeah, we need oxygen for the flame to be able to burn. Another condition. I have to have the volition or the intention to strike the match. And then the final condition, the necessary condition, is striking the match. Okay? That's the final and necessary condition. If I didn't do that, there would not be the flame. So that's my understanding of conditions leading to the cause of something. What are the conditions that are leading me to be happy? The conditions are, first thing in the morning, I look for beauty. It's a condition for happiness. The condition for being happy is I feel grateful to my parents. Conditions for my being here, to my teachers who have taught me how to understand and love. Thai has taught us always about that. Love and understanding and compassion. Another condition for my happiness and my gratitude is my gratitude to my friends who have been there for me at difficult moments and non-difficult moments. And that's Sangha as well. Gratitude to my parents, my teachers, my friends. And the fourth gratitude that we practice here is to all beings in the animal, vegetal, and mineral world, which is Mother Earth, everything. Okay, so think of all of this as a condition for happiness and gratitude. Since we're talking about suffering, you may want to think of some conditions that have led to some kind of suffering in your life. Could have been the ending of a relationship, or not getting a job, or something like that. So think of conditions that lead to the cause of something happening. This is my understanding as it is right now, so I hope it's good enough and maybe subject to change by more advanced Dharma teachers. So, okay, So we have so far 2 of the 4 Noble Truths, right? Suffering, the making of suffering. Now, how do we transform the suffering? How can we, not have suffering anymore? The Buddha realized 8 wonderful, noble practices, the eightfold path of right practices, which we've heard already. The Noble Eightfold Path of Right Practices. Three, we're not going to talk about yet. That's the surprise at the end. It's like the cake. So I think you've heard the Noble Eightfold Path of right practices. So we have, I don't want to do too much writing, so I'll just mention them if that's okay. We have right view, right thinking, right speech. And we know as we move through all of these 8 right practices, they depend on one another. They influence one another. They inter-are. If I have right thinking, I'll have right speech. Fourth one is right action. Right diligence or right effort. And it continues to go. Right livelihood. Right mindfulness and right concentration. So all of these involve our mindfulness to know what is right action, what is right speech right now, a right thinking and right view. Now, before we get to this wonderful surprise of happiness, I want to add something more to the causes and roots of suffering. And the Buddha and Thai have taught that in terms of 4 nutriments, our consumption. So we have, the first one is what we eat and what we drink, edible food. The second one, as the cause of suffering, is sensory impressions. If we see something that is very sad or very violent, it can cause suffering in us. It's our eyes, our ears, our nose, our tongue, our body, and our mind. So, if we receive impressions through our senses, such as the violent being hit, that is a cause for suffering. Okay? Third one is volition. I can suffer from my volition if my volition means that I have to use all my time and energy to work, to earn money, to buy this, to buy that, and I don't have time for my family or my friends. That's a volition that can create suffering for me. Maybe my health will fail. My family will be isolated. There won't be enough love and understanding or conversation. That's a volition that can create suffering. And then the final nutriment is the consciousness nutriment. And that refers to how I'm nourishing my consciousness, my mind, with the thoughts that I'm thinking. So if I'm thinking negative thoughts, if I'm judging, if I'm critical, I'm really nourishing my mind with suffering. But it also means as well the environment I'm in. So, depending on the kind of nutriment or the kind of food, the food can either be harmful or create suffering, or the food can be very nourishing. And here, when we come to practice and we practice together, the food that we offer is nourishing. Okay, we learn to listen, to speak kindly. The food is healthy here. Our volition is to practice, to transform, to be happy. And our consciousness is in an environment that is positive. So the third part of suffering is that suffering can have an end, particularly with the way we have the four nutriments. And the good news is that happiness is possible. So for me, the Four Noble Truths are really a blueprint or a plan for happiness. I tend to want to emphasize the happiness aspect of the Four Noble Truths. Happiness is possible with our mindfulness and awareness and careful consumption of the four nutriments. Now, a very simple way to be aware of the four nutriments is to read and study the mindfulness trainings. The 5 mindfulness trainings and then the 14 mindfulness trainings. Because they do contain the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path of Right Practices. We know that each training begins with the sentence, aware of the suffering caused. Okay, the suffering will have causes that are mentioned in each training. And then the training can give us the information from the Noble Eightfold Path of how to practice, what to do differently in order to not have the conditions to create more suffering, but to be happy, to have happiness. So that's what I think. And I just share my view. That's all it is. So let's have a pause now, which is so good for our health. And we'll just listen to the bell and enjoy our breathing and relaxing. I'd like to complete the diagram of Thay's version of the Four Noble Truths using the word ill-being and well-being. So, we have ill-being, I have ill-being. Sometimes easier to say that than to say I have suffering. We know the four mantras of love that Thai has written, and we use these in our relationships. And the first one is, I know you are there and I'm happy. We say that to our beloved ones to nourish the happiness in the relationship and the love. The second mantra is, I am here for you. So this is a statement that lets the other person know I'm committed to be there for you, to listen to you, to understand you, to live with compassion. I am here for you. So relationships start wonderful, but after a period of time, then maybe it's more appropriate to say the third and the fourth mantra of love. The third mantra of love is, I know you are suffering. That is why I am here for you. And the person who hears this may not like to hear that this person is saying that I suffer. I know that you suffer, but sometimes the response is, I don't suffer, I'm not suffering. Why do you say I'm suffering? Well, that's a response of not being happy on hearing that this person sees that I'm suffering without asking. Yeah. The fourth mantra of love is, well, this person dear to me has reacted to my saying, I see you suffer, that's why I'm here for you. This person has reacted now. I have to say to this dear person, darling, I suffer. Please help. So if there's a bit of an allergy to the word suffering, then probably we won't get the help we need. Do you understand? Sometimes the word suffering is just too strong. I remember many years ago in a question and answer session, a woman came up to ask Thai a question. She sat in the chair and she said, Dear Thai, this is my situation. I practice the fourth mantra of love, and I said to my husband, darling, I suffer. Please help. And you know what my husband said to me, Thai? My husband said to me, so what? Ugh. So, that the word just didn't sit right with the husband, perhaps, and there was more. Yeah. So using the word ill-being is probably a little bit easier. You can say, darling, I see you have ill-being. That's why I'm here for you. Or, darling, I have ill-being. Please help. But maybe that word is not strong enough. So we have to reflect, okay? Which would be the best word for a given situation. So, ill-being. There are causes, conditions contributing to ill-being. And now, what is the eightfold path that makes ill-being? Thai called it the ignoble eightfold path of wrong practices. Okay, so shall we write that? And you can think of wrong mindfulness. What would be wrong mindfulness? If someone wants to rob a bank, this person will be very mindful and perhaps skillful. But it's wrong mindfulness, because it involves stealing. Okay? You have a sense of the result will not be moral or ethical. Wrong mindfulness. The result is not ethical. It leads to suffering. So wrong thinking, wrong speech, wrong action, etc. leads to suffering. Okay, killing is wrong action. Wars are wrong action. Okay, now, so what do we think is number 3? Well-being is possible. Okay. So I want to erase this, okay? So you just, you know what it is, right? I can erase it to put something else on the board. Okay, I have your permission. Silence means consent in our community. Someone like to fix the eraser? It just fell apart. Thank you. So recently I read in the Anguttara Nikaya number 6, 6th chapter number 63. Buddha talked about the diversity of suffering. I had never heard of that before. And he said there is intense suffering that fades away quickly or slowly. And then there is moderate suffering that fades away quickly or slowly. So he really specified intense or moderate suffering. Maybe mild suffering he would consider not really suffering, just not being at ease or something. And he also taught that what is the outcome of suffering? So he said that the mind can be overwhelmed because the mind is in the grips of the suffering and it doesn't know how to free itself from the thinking or whatever is causing the suffering in the mind. So the Buddha said in this situation, because the mind is in the grips of suffering, the mind can become deranged, can become, we might say crazy or mad. The mind can become deranged. But here's the good part of the Buddha's statement. He said, or in his misery, the person searches outside for a remedy. And that is, you come to Plum Village. No, you look for a practice, seriously. You want to find a way to help yourself. Yeah. The mind searches for a way to come out of the suffering, a remedy. And the Buddha provided that in the Noble Eightfold Path. But I think this is very interesting to reflect if we have had any experience of suffering. There is a diversity, there are degrees. Is my suffering intense? Or is it moderate? not so bad. Does it fade away slowly? It's just slowly being transformed? Or does the suffering go away quickly? So I can write that on the board if you'd like, the little chart. People like that. And you may want to think while I'm writing about moderate suffering or intense suffering in your life, but I don't want you to get too sad. And then whether it has faded away slowly or did it go away quickly. So whenever I hear the jets, I don't know, maybe Air Force or some very fast airplane fly very quickly across the sky, and the sound is very, very strong, very, very strong. I have to hold my ears. I don't know if you've heard that or whatever. For me, that's intense suffering, but when the jet flies away, it's gone. The suffering is gone. And Thai talks about the toothache and then the non-toothache, okay? That not having a toothache is actually very happy. So when the dentist fixes your tooth, you don't have the toothache anymore. So it fades away after the treatment. We have practices of watering our seeds of happiness. And so we've been concentrating a lot on suffering, and now let's go to the happiness that is possible. Let's hear a sound of the bell, please. We have our practice songs. Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worry. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, no longer in a hurry. So all of our practice songs are ways to water these seeds of happiness. And for that reason we sing every day. It's so nourishing. Would you like to sing that song with me now? Happiness. We know happiness is here and now. So let's sing it. Why not? Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. No longer in a hurry. Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Somewhere to go, something to do, but I don't need to hurry. En français. Le bonheur, c'est maintenant. J'ai laissé tous mes soucis. Nulle part où aller, rien à faire. Pas besoin de me presser. Happiness, c'est maintenant. J'ai laissé tous mes soucis. Nulle part où aller, quelque chose à faire. Mais à présent, j'ai tout mon temps. And thank you, dear friends, and our Vietnamese-speaking brothers and sisters and retreatants are in the Buddha Hall, but we invite you to sing the song in Vietnamese right now, there. We can't hear you, but we'll be happy that you will be singing this song. It's a wonderful song. We're almost at the end. I would just like to summarize a little bit of what I've shared. That is my practice of looking to nature the first thing in the morning to see the beauty, to see the wonders of life. The wonders of life are available in the present moment, here and now. So I nourish these seeds of happiness as early as possible in the day. The second thing is I try to take care of my health by being aware of the 4 nutriments and to not create suffering, but to eat and look at things that will nourish my well-being, aware of my thinking, my volition, always in a direction of goodness and happiness. So this is the practice of the 5 and 14 mindfulness trainings and our monastic precepts and mindful manners. It's taking care of the health of our body and mind. And a third thing I haven't gotten to yet, but I just want to end with something that made me happy and it touched me deeply. Yeah, that the COP conference number 27, I believe, just finished yesterday in Egypt. It went one day over time, so they could discuss more and hopefully come to some agreement and consensus and support the poorer countries who are receiving so much more of the climate disaster, the devastation, the flooding, and the forest fires and the drought. So what really touched me yesterday is that I saw that a 10-year-old girl from Ghana Africa. She spoke to all of the adult representatives from 197 countries, something like that. It's a continuation of the Paris, the first CUP conference. And she spoke to them. And she said, have heart, do the math. Please give us the money we need to recover from the climate disaster. And she was a wonderful 10-year-old girl, just speaking honestly from her heart. And you know what? They all stood up. They gave her a standing ovation. And wow, that moved me. That was so beautiful. So, yeah, we can end now knowing that the future is in the hands of our young people who are here. You're young. And I also want to mention something that a mother who is, it was in Upper Hamlet maybe last Sunday, a few Sundays ago, she was with her daughter and the other children who are living with their families around Plum Village. And she said to me, you know, we're leaving the planet in not good shape for our young ones. And then she added, but we're leaving for the planet many good young ones, many good young people. They're practicing their parents' care. So I was very touched by her sharing. So the future is ours, and we're practicing. We have the volition, the bodhicitta, the aspiration, at least to practice, to create love and compassion with our daily practice of mindfulness, awareness of suffering. We have the precepts. Yeah, and when we create peace in ourselves, we create peace in the world. So for all of the real suffering of our times, we can make a difference. We cannot perhaps solve all of the suffering ourselves, but individually we can contribute happiness to the collective happiness. And this is how it's going to happen. A global spirituality and ethic, all of us are doing it. We don't see the result yet, but we're on the path. Yeah, we're creating a better world for the good, for the little ones who are good, who are going to inherit this planet. And I'll end with that. Thank you, dear friends, for your listening and for your practice.